I'm Zaccura and welcome back to my channel, and today's video is the awaited Inktober walkthrough. Hey! Before we get into this video, just wanted to let y'all know that I just launched my Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign to help raise funds to print and distribute a short run of Zig's Journey, my Inktober story journal. So if you have a minute, I would greatly appreciate if you would check it out and consider donating and or getting word out about it. The link to that page is down in the description box. Thanks so much for your support, and now back to the video. So let's jump right into it. So if you don't know, this year I went with a special theme for my Inktober works where each day I drew and wrote one page out of my character Zig's personal journal as he went on a 1-month journey. I'll have the video where I actually showed how I made this personal traveler's notebook linked right over here, as well as in the description box in case you want to see how I actually made this. But without further ado, let's get into these illustrations page journal things. So I separated each week in the month into 4 separate booklets. So these are actually separate things that can be taken out. Like so. So this is week 1 right here. Yeah, okay. Cool. Let's stop procrastinating and talk about the illustrations. Week 1. So every week I did one extra illustration for the cover image of that week. So this was the very first one, which has Zig sitting and doing his journaling, I guess. And then we go into day 1, Monday, day 1. I was also following the official prompt list this year, something that I'd never done before, and the prompt for day 1 was poisonous. So I thought, heck, let's do some poisonous berries. This one was really rushed. I did this in maybe an hour because it was very late at night. But I thought it was a nice little start to this journal journey, kind of showed the theme that I was going with for the year. And with this one, I wanted to make sure that the specs of the berries are kind of really official, kind of like those, I don't know, those biology books, those nature books that have the actual sizes and stuff of the leaves and the berries and stuff like that. So I actually measured it out, even though it's all completely made up. So I thought that was fun. Day 2's prompt was Tranquil, so I thought, heck, well, maybe he came across a hot spring. Hot springs are tranquil. This remains one of the most popular illustrations of this month, and it is also one of my favorites. I do think it does stand out from the others in the sense that there's so much color. A lot of the other ones are mostly black and white with just a tint of color. This has a lot of that blue and stuff, and so that was a lot of fun. Plus, it's got these cute little sealches. Yeah, there's a warning. All the animals in here are fictitious in nature. Day 3's prompt was roasted, and so I came up with this idea that he is roasting some char bulbs. Again, fictitious, made up root vegetable, I guess, and that's what he's roasting. I kept this one completely black and white because it was at night, so I thought that would kind of add to that atmosphere. And yeah, that smoke gave me some trouble. Kind of came out looking a little bit like a tornado, but it is what it is. And yeah, that's day 3. Day 4's prompt was spell, and so I had this concept where he's walking in the woods, Zig is walking in the woods, and he discovers this stuffed toy randomly there in the middle of the woods. That's a normal thing to find in the woods, right? And then he hears some music and turns back around, and the toy is gone. Ooh, mysterious. Must be a magic spell. I mean, what else could it be, right? This is one of my favorite pages, personally. I just like how it came out. It looks very storybook-like, like something I'd actually see somewhere, and so I was pretty proud that I was able to do something like that. And that was day 4. And then day 5's prompt was chicken, and I didn't want to just draw a literal chicken because that felt uncreative, so I thought maybe there could be a character who is a chicken at heart, and I had already planned for Yukio here, this another character, to show up in this story, and he is a bit of a Cinnabon, and so I thought maybe it'd be funny to kind of play on the word chicken and be like, well, maybe he's not a literal chicken, but he's a chicken at heart. This is one of my favorites, actually. A lot of my favorites come from the week 1. I tend to do that. A lot of my favorite illustrations all are in week 1. But yeah, I just like their expressions and stuff. Then day 6, the prompt for day 6 was drooling. And so I came up with this idea of this animal that Zig has never seen before, and so it remains unnamed. And he was trying to, check it out, and then, long story short, this is the situation they ended up in with the thing chasing them. And and as you can see, it's drooling a lot. It's a very drooly, magnificent animal. And the prompt for day 7, which was the last day in week 1, was exhausted. And so I had already been sort of following the storyline that where Zig is going through a forest, and so I figured at the end of the week they make it out of the forest, but they are exhausted because of all the traveling, and there they are. Another one that I kept black and white because it was at night, so I figured it would match the atmosphere. And that was week 1. Now moving on to week 2. There's the cover illustration with Zig and Yukio, since now there's 2 characters in the story at this point. And moving on. The prompt for day 8 was star, and I decided to use this opportunity to show a little bit more atmosphere into this world. And I talk about directional stars and how this world only has 4 stars and the rest of the sky is just blank, and they have multiple moons, and it's kind of mentioned, all written in here. I just kind of wanted to, give that info to people in a very kind of indirect and like yeah, this is normal. There's only 4 stars and there's multiple moons, because that's how they would be if this is their world. So I just wanted to show that to the reader or the watcher or whatever, that this is not like our normal Earth, if you will. It's kind of fantasy and different. And this image ended up becoming the cover image. I'm not sure if I will change it in the future. I don't know, but so far at least, people seem to like. I kind of cut it like this to have that as the cover image. And I thought, I think it works. The prompt for day 9 was precious, and so I thought I would talk a little bit about these 2 items that you see Yukio carrying around with him all the time, which is that stuffed toy and this 3-stringed kind of bitten ukulele instrument, and so just kind of give a little bit more insight into the character of Yukio. The prompt for day 10 was flowing, and of course the first thing that came to my mind was things like a river, water, because the water flows. But I thought, what are other things that flow? And I thought of music. Music flows. And so I came up with this character, which I had already had her design. Speaking of which, all of these character designs that you can see, well, at least all of the main character designs, they're actually, you can find them like on my Instagram. Like I did sketches of them as just random drawings before, and I decided to use their designs in this story because they fit the style. So yeah, that was really fun also for this project, that I was able to sort of bring some of my sketches to life, and that was really fun. So in comes a new character, Fleek, and she plays some on fleek music. Badoom. Chi. Day 11's prompt word was cruel, and it kind of ties in, obviously, with what's going on this page. If you read the words, it ties into here, and there's this animal, a koala. Again, fictitious animal, doesn't exist as so far as I know, and it's kind of, as you can see, it's been treated pretty cruelly. It has, cuts, and it's shaking in terror, and it's just has been mistreated a bit, so I thought that fit the word for cruel. The prompt for day 12 was whale, and I was looking forward to this prompt like all month because I knew exactly what I wanted to draw. I wanted to draw whale fly. If you guys made it to that live stream, I think it was like a couple months ago already, maybe last month, I don't remember, and that was where whale fly was born, and I love whale fly. I want a whale fly as my pet. Just imagine, just right here. Just, it's adorable. So yeah, this is one of my favorite pages because whale fly. enough said. Don't even need to say anything more. It's Whalefly. Then day 13 was guarded, and all the pages have been following a storyline. This kind of goes to an interesting place where Yukio's toy is discovered to grow into this ginormous beast that guards Yukio, Zig, and Fleek from a vicious Trigo. So that's a little bit. Things start getting mystical. And then the last day of week 2, day 14, the prompt was clock, and at this point they finally make it to their destination that they wanted to get to, which was Hat Clock Town. I guess it's a pretty cliche idea to have a town with a big looming clock tower, but I wanted to do something a little bit weird and a little bit special, and so I had Hat Clock Town. I thought it sounded cool, and giving the clock this kind of hat with these lights on it, I thought was unique and would, kind of leave some kind of lasting impression. I don't know, you guys are gonna have to tell me if it does. And that was the end of week 2. And week 3, there is now 3 characters involved: Zig, Yukio, and Fleek. This image was a bit of a struggle. There's like black splashed all over the place, which I could have kind of fixed with some white out, but I decided to keep it because it adds a little bit of, character to it. But the nib for my dip pen, the one that had a previous nib on here, it snapped. It was old and it was gonna go anytime, so it snapped while I was drawing this illustration, so I had to replace it with this one. And so this nib's pretty good, but it doesn't have as much line weight as the previous one, so I'm gonna have to get more nibs at some point. To day 15. The prompt word for day 15 was weak, and I guess you'd have to read all of this to really understand how that ties in. That's a word of warning as this story goes on. The prompts kind of take a back burner. They're all there. All the prompts are in there and every single illustration, but it's like you have to read it to it's not really in your face just with the illustrations, because the illustrations start to really more take on a storytelling narrative. And this is Fleek's father, and he's a luthier, which is an stringed instrument crafter. He also makes all kinds of other instruments as well. And this was the first time I ever really drew a fully grown adult in this cartoony style. I'd mostly always drawn pretty young, children, maybe teenagers, maybe very young adult, but this is a fully grown man here, and it was kind of hard to design him, but in the end I quite like how he came out, and I think he looks like a good dad. He's got a ponytail. Oh yeah, and at this point in the Inktober journey, I kind of stopped using my dip pen. I mean, I know I always use the dip pen for the cover images, but for the actual line work for all of the remaining images, I'm pretty sure I stopped because my schedule kind of got pushed to later, and I started drawing every day later. And India ink, which is what you use when you're using a dip pen, needs quite a bit of time to dry before you can, put ink washes and color over it, or else it will smudge. And I just didn't have that time to let it sit for an hour. So this is kind of like the unsung hero Pigma Micron brush, which I actually bought sometime during October, and it's just a normal Pigma Micron. It has the same ink, but it has this kind of small little thin brush tip, and that became the hero. Everything is all lined with this. It's a lot faster than using a dip pen. I still like the dip pen probably a little bit more, but this was a fantastic substitute so far, and it was definitely pretty inexpensive in the long run. The prompt word for day 16 was angular, and I thought I would take this opportunity to kind of show a bit more about Hat Clock Town and how all the buildings there take on a very angular look. Everything's very, you see these triangle windows and very sharp corners and stuff like that, but Zig comes across this one building that's just what the heck, that's not angular, this is anything but angular, it's all weird and round and stuff like that. So yeah. I quite like how this one came out, because I didn't have to write so much on this day. I had a lot more room for the actual illustration, so that was good. And by the way, like, didn't mention this before, but you probably already see, like, almost all the illustrations have brown in it, and, like, that was my hero. Nut Brown Winsor Newton ink. I used it in pretty much every single illustration, if not every single illustration, except for the cover images, because those don't have any color in it whatsoever. But I used it in a way that I really never tried to use ink before, which was just to, like, tint things, and I discovered just how awesome it looks when you use the colored inks to tint things. And yeah, so that was fun, and it gives it this kind of warm storybook thing to it, which is more interesting than if it was just black and white. Then the prompt word for day 17 was swollen, and yeah, the swollen was the first thing came to my head, and I didn't fight it this time. Was that kind of swollen from an injury, if you will, and so kind of show a little bit more of the drama, I guess, the sort of more inner struggles, emotional struggles that Zig has to deal with, because he's kind of odd. Like, as you go through the story, you see that, like, everyone else kind of looks normal, I guess you could say, and he's just like, he's odd, like, he's strange, he's a bit of an odd one out, and he's a mute as well, so he's just like, and he's young, so he has to deal with some struggles, like just everyday struggles. And figured this is his journal, right? So people write their very personal things in their journals, so I thought, I should probably touch a bit on that, since this is supposed to be Zig writing this journal. And I thought it was an interesting idea to kind of key in the actual writing into the illustration, and so rather than having the illustrations and then the words, but like actually making the words part of the illustration and having them be bold in some places and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting day. Then the prompt word for day 18 was bottle, and we also introduced a new character. At this point, her name wasn't revealed, so she's just like referred to as Bottle Girl. And she's deaf, and if you guys didn't already know, Zig is mute. He cannot speak, so she can't hear, he cannot speak. And here she's like helping him heal his cheek, and there was this bottle that she just randomly had hanging in her hair, because who doesn't keep bottles hanging in their hair? Then the prompt word for day 19 was scorched, and we kind of, bring Zig back to Fleek and Yukio and what was going on over there, because he kind of took a detour and went off on his own there for a little bit. Here's Fleek like, "Where have you been, you dummy?" And showed a little bit more about some more mystical mysteries surrounding Yukio's toy. And they just scorched this cloth, and it's alive. Look at it. Look at the cutie pie. Yukio's toy may be like my secret favorite character. Like, I wouldn't say it, but like secretly in my heart, my favorite character. Then the prompt word for day 20 was breakable, and so it kind of keyed back in on that little tiny bottle, and you see it's like breaking, it's cracking. There you go. And as you can see, there's like so many words at this point. Like there was just a lot that was going on, and like a lot can happen in one day, and so it's hard to really sometimes write everything that happened in that day on and fit it all on this one tiny little page, as well as put illustrations, because I couldn't just only have words. So yeah, this became a struggle, especially later on when, things were starting to wrap up in the story, to be able to fit everything that happens and get all of the points across while still being able to fit it all on one page. So yeah, that became a struggle, and I had to write in a different way than I'm used to. So I had to cut out a lot of information and just really get the bare bones of what's going on and kind of leave the rest up to the reader. And I thought that ended up accidentally becoming a very interesting idea. The prompt for day 21, the last day in week 3, was drain, and another page that has a lot of words, because a lot of action happened on this day, a lot of running and chasing. And it kind of leaves week 3 on a bit of a cliffhanger, because they go down the creepy drain in that random house. And that concludes week 3. And moving on to week 4, and technically there's like 3 extra days in week 4, which I guess could have been like a short week 5, but really I just included all of them into week 4, so it's basically kind of like an extended week, if you will, rather than a week and a half. So this is the cover image for week 4, and I quite like how this one came out. I think of all the cover images, this one and the first one are my faves, but this one's probably my favorite. With them playing rock, paper, scissors, and they're like, wait a minute, how does this work? The prompt for day 22 was expensive, and, you know, again, the prompt kind of gets a little bit in the back burner, and you'd have to read it in order to understand how it ties into this. But basically, those glowing things that you see Fleek and Yukio holding, they're called glow globs, and they are very expensive if you were to buy them because they are living creatures. Look at them. They are sedentary, but they are living creatures, and Yukio is kind of choking his. This was an interesting page, and it's one of my favorites because it was fun to do the lighting such like really bright and really, really dark, and it's the only page in this entire book story thing that is black with white letters. All the other pages are white with black letters, and this was really scary to do because I just had to fill the whole page in with black and pray that I would be able to write the words with this and that it would be legible and readable and white enough to actually be able to read. And I had no idea if it would be until that part of the illustration, when I the last step in the illustration, which is writing those letters. So, but it ended up working out really well, and it was great. I think it added to this page a lot. But yeah. And the prompt for day 23 was muddy, and this illustration was really, really rushed due to some procrastination involved, because this was the day when I uploaded a previous video and I was trying out the whole premiere thing, which this is probably premiere right now. So hi chat people, if you watch this in the premiere, and if you're not watching this in the premiere, then forget what I just said. But this is kind of them walking out from where they are here. So they're here and then they walked out, and it's all really, really muddy, and you can see footprints, and yeah, there you go. It's kind of, you know, it's not like very pretty, but I guess it fits for the theme of muddy. You know, it looks kind of dirty and muddy and gross a little bit. So yeah, moving on. And day 24, the prompt for day 24 was chop, and again, you know, it's not really in your face, where's the chop, you know, prompt, but it's, again, you have to read it. You gotta read it. It makes sense if you read it. And this is when they get reunited with Bottle Girl, because that's who they were trying to find. That's why they were walking, the 3 of them. They found her. Haha, they are reunited now in the woods. And there's an axe. And the prompt for day 25 was prickly, and I wanted to kind of, you know, go back to what was going on in the beginning of this thing, where, you know, he had the berries, you know, recording things that he sees. It's not just so perfectly a storybook, but also just, you know, his personal journal and recording things that he sees. And I had this opportunity with Prickly to, you know, introduce yet another weird animal thing into this world, which are prickle pruts. And they were based off of those seeds that in real life, I always called them natural Velcro, because they act just like Velcro. And when I was a kid, I would find them like stuck to my socks or my pants or something if I was walking around in the park, and I would take them and like throw them at my friends and get them stuck to them. And yeah, it was fun times. And I guess if you don't live in an area where they grow, then you have like no idea what I'm talking about. But if you do live in an area where they grow, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But either way, that's what they were based off of, because they're very prickly little things. But in this case, they are alive. They are animals. Look at those eyes. And down here is sign language. This was actually based off of American Sign Language. And it's for the letters G and U. So G and U. And I don't speak, I don't know, can you say you speak a sign language? But anyway, I don't know any sign language myself, but I've always actually wanted to learn American Sign Language. I just thought it's a really interesting language, and it would be really cool and to be able to speak with your hands alone. And because I have characters in this story, this character is deaf, and Zig, who's the main character, is mute. Not everything can be communicated with speaking, and so I thought, it's only natural that she would know some sign language. And I never really mentioned what sign language it was based off in the story, because this is not supposed to be real life, but it was based off of ASL. This is kind of when it was revealed the name of Bottle Girl, and that is her name is Gu, G-U. The prompt for day 26 was stretch, and again, it's like it's not apparent in the illustration. This one was actually like really kind of a cop-out, because I kind of barely put the stretch aspect even into the words if you were to read it. So yeah, but it was an important time in the story because this character gets involved, which was a character that they mentioned like a while ago, and they finally meet him, and his name is Giz. This illustration took me quite a long time because of all the books, but at the same time it was really satisfying to draw all those books. I don't know, it's like meditative, I guess, when you're just drawing like book after book after book after book, and especially to color it in with the shading was I don't know, it felt good. Felt good to draw, but it did take a long time, and this was definitely uploaded the latest out of all the illustrations. I uploaded it past midnight where I live, but it was still the 26th somewhere in the world. Moving on to day 27, yet another character is introduced, and this is Zag, and yeah, so now there's like 5 kids. It's a lot of characters now. That's one thing I didn't really prepare myself for, was that the more characters that get introduced means the longer the illustrations will take to draw, because more characters equals more time. And so yeah, this one, I don't really like much of how they're drawn here. It's a little bit messy, but it gets the point across. And the prompt for this day was thunder. Again, there's a bit of a cop-out, but it's basically, it's a thunderstorm outside while they're talking. Yeah, that's my excuse there. And this is kind of when a lot of stuff gets kind of revealed a bit, because so before then it's just like they're doing this stuff and you're like, what, why, what's going on, what's going on. This here kind of gives you a little bit of a taste of what's going on. And then we move on to day 28. And day 28's prompt was gift, and this definitely has the most words on it. A very, very tiny illustration, because I just could not fit all the drama and stuff that happens on this day in less than this. I mean, trimming it down to just this much took me like a good hour, because this scene, there's a main scene that happens in this on this day, and I imagine it to be like much longer, and I actually wrote a lot more of it, but it would be pages, multiple pages, in order to show that. So I had to really trim and cut out so much stuff just to get the bare bones of the feeling, I guess, I'd want to give you on this day when you read it. And yeah, and then there's the gift. It's just like this little box string, and we don't really know what's inside yet. Then we move on to day 29, and day 29, some more stuff gets revealed a bit, because I tried to tie it into the previous day, because not everything could be explained in one day, so I tied in some more, and hopefully those who've read it were able to kind of gather what happened, because I still couldn't really like flat out this is what happened, because it would just take up too much space. So I kind of had to give it to people through osmosis. The prompt for this day was double. Oh yeah, double. I guess it's kind of already spoiled on my how do you call it, on my social media, how that relates, but I guess I don't want to completely spoil it, but double, because there's him and there's him, and it makes sense if you read it. But yeah, it's not a total cop-out, but it's still kind of a cop-out. And then we move on to day 30, the day before the finale, and the prompt word for this day was jolt, and it kind of also another cop-out. I mean, a lot of cop-outs near the end of the story, because I needed to wrap things up and tie up loose ends and really focus on the story rather than the actual very specific moments that fit the prompts. But It's still there. It's still, you can read it. Jolt, it says it right here. It makes sense. There you go. But it's not really the main point of this. And yeah, again, lots and lots of words. And then finally, we go to the finale. Day 31, home. And yeah, one of my favorite illustrations, probably for obvious reasons, because it has all of them in it. And this illustration took me quite a bit of time because it has all of the characters in it, and also to just thumbnailing to figure out how to compose this drawing so that would have all of them in it and they'd all be doing something that makes sense rather than just having their faces there to have to be like really living and stuff. Was hard to figure out, took some time, but eventually I figured it out, and I like how it came out. And we finally get to see Ziggs smile. Look at his adorable little barely smiling there. that made me happy to see Ziggs smiling. And yeah, and that kind of concluded the totally dramatic, emotional story in a somewhat happy way. And there is one last page in the back here, but I'm not gonna show you guys that because that's a secret. It's not really that big of a deal. It's not like something to get super hyped or anything about, but it's just something special for the book that I wanted to put at the end of the book. And yeah, so y'all gonna have to see the book in order to see what that is. Though probably knowing me, I'm probably still gonna release it at some point on my social media, so I'm probably gonna show people. But yeah, there you go. And so that concludes all 31 days of Inktober 2018. Yeah, so that's it. That's the whole shebang. Finito. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing some insights into the inspiration and creation of the pages as I went through the month. Creating this thing was like a journey in itself. It stretched my creativity, and it was just so fulfilling to watch these characters grow before my eyes. And really, it just reminds me why I love writing and drawing so much. It's really when you're able to take something inanimate and breathe life into it, and all of a sudden it's so much more than just an illustration or just a compilation of sentences. It's a world, it's emotion, it's a journey, and it's like the closest thing to magic we have in the world, and I don't know if I will ever get bored of that. So it's really just what I love to do and what I hope I can keep doing and keep improving at for a long time. And oh dear, we are getting a tad deep here, aren't we? Moving on. Thanks for the support and cheering me on during the month of October. And we just hit 500 subscribers just about a week ago, which is amazing. 500 was my goal for this year. I set it back in January, but I mean, it was just some random number I threw out there without really thinking about it much, but you guys actually made it happen. And when you take a second to realize just how many people that really is, it's amazing. It's so easy to get caught up in the crazy amounts of numbers we see online, but if you were to just stop for a moment and realize that, like, man, there's a whole packed college lecture hall, like a giant one. Like most of them can only hold like 200 students, I think. But I mean, just that many people actually clicked that button, and that means a lot. I definitely want to do a special video to celebrate, possibly some giveaway stuffs, but that will have to wait because right now I'm putting a lot of energy and focus into running my Indiegogo campaign for Zig's Journey, my Inktober project this year that is before you now. And I have never printed a book, I've never sold a book, I am a random person who just loves drawing and telling stories, and has been non-stop practicing and trying to improve for the last 4.5 years, all with the hopes and dreams to one day have those passions be held in the hands of other people. And with this project, I'm finally trying to take a big step towards that. It's really intimidating. So much stuff that I don't know, and I'm just figuring out and learning right now, and yeah, a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna do my absolute best that I can and see how it goes. And I just want to thank everyone who has cheered me on and believed in me so far. And if you guys would like to help out with this project by donating to my Indiegogo campaign to help me raise the funds for printing and distributing Zig's journey, that would be so amazing. I have the link to that page with all the details for the project, as well as special rewards available. It's all linked in the description box, so if you have a minute to give that a look and a consideration, I would greatly appreciate it. And even if you can't donate yourself, just spreading the word any way you can by telling a family member, friends, your social media followers if you're on there, whoever you may think would be interested in donating goes a long way with helping me out. And thanks so much in advance to anyone who decides to pitch in and help a gal take a huge step towards her dream. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell to stay notified for when I upload. I make new videos every week, usually uploading on Sundays. If you'd like to follow me on social media, all the links to that are in the description box where you can follow me for daily updates. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya!